The trade deadline has come and gone for the New York Mets. What is there to look forward to the rest of the season aside from watching young players hopefully develop? Let's talk about it. Well, welcome back to New York Sports WickerMedia. I'm Watsu-K99. Thank you as always for taking the time to watch these videos. If you're brand new, welcome aboard. Please like and subscribe. If you're returning, welcome back. Please hit that like button. I appreciate everybody's time and support. So I want to talk a little New York Mets right now. You know, they traded away about a quarter of their roster, during the trade deadline period. Now they're left with a bunch of players who a lot of us never even heard of. Even die-hard baseball fans didn't even know some of these guys. Rafael Ortega, Jonathan Arias, or however you pronounce his name, I don't know, and I don't really care at this point. They're up in Baltimore right now. I wish I could be there. Baltimore is about 4 hours away from where I live, but due to work conflicts, it doesn't work out that way. It's a bummer because I always love a trip up there to get some Chaps pit beef sandwiches, some Jimmy's Famous Seafood, but alas, I'm here and I'm working. So I'm thinking about these last 50 plus games left. Oh my gosh. And what is there to watch aside from the development we hope and pray of the Francisco Alvarez's, the Brett Beattys, the Mark Vientoses, Ronnie Mauricio, if the Mets ever call him up, and so on and so on. At this point, as far as a team goes, this is going to aggravate a few people, and I understand why. But at this point, the only thing left to really watch for as far as the Mets as a team with their record is, will they be bad enough to finish in the bottom 6 of Major League Baseball? Now, there's a group of fans out there who would say, you would never root against your own team. That's not a real fan. I always appreciate when the fan police comes out. But here's the thing. By rooting for the team to lose now, it's like you're rooting for the team to be better long-term. You got to keep the long-term picture in mind. Let me ask this question. What difference does a win make now, especially when it's a team that just got swept by the lousy, crappy Kansas City Royals? Are you kidding me? I'm rooting for long-term success. Whether the Mets get 72 wins, 74 wins, 78 wins, it doesn't really matter, except in this one way that we're going to talk about. All right, if the Mets don't finish in the bottom 6 of Major League Baseball, their draft pick in the first round drops 10 spots, okay, in 2024. And that does matter. Now, there is an MLB draft lottery. So if you finish in the bottom 6, you enter that draft lottery with a chance to get the first overall pick. And the Mets, at worst, guarantee themselves a top 6 pick in the draft. And the other thing to know, because the Mets are paying revenue sharing, because their payroll is so high, they can't be in the lottery 2 seasons in a row. So they could be in it this year, hypothetically, but they can't next year. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull the standings up. I'm going to make a little graphic there so it'll appear on the screen. Going into Friday's games, okay, the Mets have the 9th worst record in Major League Baseball. They're 50-58. The only team ahead of them is Cleveland at 53-56. Mets are right behind them at 50-58, 2.5 games back. Then you have the Detroit Tigers at 48-60, 4.5 back of Cleveland. All these games behind are in reference to Cleveland. You've got Pittsburgh at 48-60 as well, also 4.5 back. St. Louis 48-62, 5.5 back. Washington is 7 back at 46-63. White Sox 43-67, 11.5 back. Colorado is 42-66, 11.5 back. And then you've got just the dregs of baseball. Kansas City at 35-75, coming off a 3-game sweep against the Mets, I might add. 18.5 behind Cleveland. And finally, the horrible Oakland Athletics at 30-80, 23.5 back. So what I'm looking at is, how can the Mets get into that bottom 6? Forget Kansas City, forget Oakland, no chance you're going to catch them. I think it's also a very slim chance the Mets get to the White Sox or the Rockies, because you're counting on one of those teams to get super hot and make up 9 games on the Mets. Those two teams traded off quite a bit of talent. Chicago traded Jake Berger, their real power hitter, over to Miami. They traded Lance Lynn, Joe Kelly, Kenyon Middleton, that really hurt their pitching. And you look at Colorado, they traded Randall Grichuk, C.J. Cron, and Brad Hand. All right, 3 very good players in their own right. Not that Brad Hand is the best reliever ever, but because he's going to Atlanta, I just expect him to be great because it's freaking Atlanta. Okay, so basically, here's what that leaves. There are 4 teams as a Mets fan that I'm going to be watching the rest of the way, and as a Mets fan, I'm rooting for them to win as many games as possible. You've got Detroit, you've got Pittsburgh, St. Louis, Washington. Those are the 4 teams. Now, if we focus just on the Mets and those 4 teams, here's what we're looking at. The New York Mets are 2 games ahead of both Detroit and Pittsburgh. They're 3 games ahead of St. Louis and 4.5 ahead of Washington. So with over 50 games to go, any of those teams can catch the Mets. No question about it. The Mets are going to have to finish with a worse record now than 3 of those 4 teams to protect that draft pick. I think best case, as far as the draft slot goes, the Mets would finish with the 5th worst record in baseball. Okay, that's what I'm thinking. So they got to catch 3 of those 4 teams and pass them. Now, can that happen? Well, we're going to give you some more numbers. Let's look at each team's remaining strength of schedule and where it ranks overall in Major League Baseball. Okay, so the Mets for the rest of the season, all right, and this includes Friday night's games going forward, have a .534 opponent winning percentage. That is the 2nd hardest in baseball, only behind Colorado. Colorado is the only team with a tougher schedule. The Mets are playing Atlanta 7 times, Philadelphia 7 times, Miami 6 times, 3 against Baltimore, which is this weekend, 3 against Texas, 3 against Cincinnati. They got some games with Arizona, okay? And then if you look at some of the other teams, Washington has the 3rd hardest strength of schedule at .522. Then you've got Pittsburgh 9th, St. Louis is 15th, and Detroit is 28th. So Detroit might have a good chance to maybe catch the Mets in the standings because they have a very easy strength of schedule going forward. Now, the Mets actually have 9 games against these teams the rest of the way. All right, 3 games against Pittsburgh from August 14th to 16th. 4 games at St. Louis from August 17th to August 20th, and 2 games at Washington in September right after Labor Day. So it's crazy. I literally had to go on to Tankathon. Tankathon is something I usually use for the Jets around week 6 or week 7 to see where they rank in the overall draft standings, and now I'm doing it for the Mets! It's something I do for the Knicks, you know, before they got Jalen Brunson when they were lousy. And the fact is, the only thing I'm watching for is not the playoff standings with the New York Mets like we all thought we'd be doing at the beginning of the year. I am literally looking to see how far in the standings they could fall so they could get in the bottom 6, get in the draft lottery, maybe actually win it. Because if they don't, they'll be picking, at best, 16th going into the 2024 MLB draft. So I hate to say that I'm rooting against my own team, but I'm rooting for them long term, and that's why I have peace of mind about it. Well, those are my thoughts on this. Let me know your thoughts. If you're a Mets fan, are you rooting for them to win games the rest of the year? Are you rooting for them to, you know, for the players to do well, but for the team to lose overall? I am curious to get your thoughts. Put them down there in the comments. Thanks, everybody, for watching. I'll see you right back here with more content from you know where. The Wicker Chair.